Central Vietnam entered one of its most severe flood seasons in decades as relentless rain swept across the region. A chain of storms pushed moisture inland, releasing days of continuous rainfall over the provinces of Quang Tri Huế, Quang Ngai, Da Nang, and Lam Dong. Entire districts were surrounded by rising water. Rivers breached their banks. Roads disappeared beneath fast-moving currents. More than 387,000 residents became isolated as floodwaters expanded across valleys, towns, and farming villages. Rainfall accumulated rapidly. Some districts measured more than 1,000 millimeters within only a few days, saturating the soil and overwhelming the river systems. Along the Thu Bon River, gauges climbed past 5.62 meters, rising beyond historic flood thresholds. Markets, schools, and homes were engulfed. Boats moved across streets that normally held buses and motorbikes. Neighborhoods turned into muddy channels where currents swept debris through doorways and across courtyards. Tens of thousands of families were forced to evacuate. More than 22,000 households moved to higher ground as water advanced into residential zones. Schools, sports halls, and community centers became temporary shelters. Families carried bags, blankets, and food supplies through the rain, while rescue teams guided them onto waiting boats. Inside the shelters, children rested on mats while elderly residents tried to stay warm under emergency blankets. Outside, the water kept rising. Many who could not evacuate in time climbed onto rooftops, balconies, and trees. Signals for help came from windows from floating debris and from partially submerged vehicles. Panic spread across neighborhoods as electricity failed and communication lines went silent. Without phone service, many communities could not report rising water or request assistance. Nightfall brought additional danger. Homes sat in darkness. Most residents relied on flashlights and candles while listening to the surge outside their doors. Agriculture, the backbone of many rural districts, suffered extensive losses. More than 4,300 hectares of rice fields disappeared beneath brown, fast-moving water. Fruit orchards collapsed under saturated soil. Livestock losses exceeded 16,000 animals. Cattle pigs and poultry were swept from barns and enclosures as currents pushed across farmland. Fields that once provided food and income for entire villages turned into vast debris-filled lakes. Farmers faced weeks, possibly months of hardship as crops and livestock vanished. Power systems faltered under the pressure of the storm. Thousands of homes lost electricity. Water treatment systems were disrupted. Mobile networks collapsed in multiple provinces. Floodwater mixed with sewage and household waste, creating a dangerous environment that increased the risk of waterborne disease. Hospitals operated with backup generators and limited supplies. Medical workers treated injuries, infections, and respiratory problems as transportation routes to facilities became blocked or washed out. The human toll continued to rise. At least 36 people lost their lives as they were swept away by fast water trapped in homes or struck by debris during landslides. Dozens remained missing. Families waited for updates, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. Each missing person represented a story of fear, confusion, and separation. Emergency crews searched along riverbanks, inside damaged homes, and beneath fallen trees. Landslides struck simultaneously with the floods. In the mountains north and west of Hue, nearly 40 hillsides collapsed after days of saturation. Earth and rocks slid across roads, burying vehicles and cutting off entire settlements. National Route 19. A key transportation corridor suffered partial destruction. Sections of pavement fell into ravines. Bridges collapsed under the force of moving soil and water. Aid convoys were delayed, and some rescue teams were forced to reroute through steep forest paths. In towns, floodwater rose through alleyways and marketplaces. Tourist destinations also suffered heavy damage. In Hoi An, historic streets were submerged under several meters of muddy water. Ancient wooden structures soaked for hours as waves pushed debris against their foundations. Shop owners waded through sludge to salvage belongings. Pets were carried out in baskets and crates. Restaurants and small businesses shut their doors as water reached their countertops and shelves. Despite the destruction, residents continued working together to protect what remained. Some communes reported water levels near 3 meters, transforming villages into isolated islands. Roads that once connected neighborhoods turned into river channels. Rescue teams delivered food, water, and medicine where navigation was still possible. Boats transported the elderly, the sick, and stranded families to safer locations. Hazards increased as submerged bridges and unstable currents blocked routes. Every movement required precision. Every journey carried risk. The storm system showed no sign of ending. New moisture from the north collided with tropical air over the Central Highlands, intensifying rainfall patterns. Forecasts warned that saturated soil could give way without warning, triggering additional landslides. Rivers remained dangerously high. Emergency officials prepared for more evacuations while monitoring upstream water levels and hillside stability. Recovery began in phases, but progress was slow. Villagers, soldiers, and volunteers cleared layers of mud from roads and homes. Temporary shelters were reinforced with wood and tarpaulins. Relief supplies were distributed to families who had been isolated for days. Community centers served meals and provided basic care for displaced residents. Local leaders organized cleanup teams to remove fallen trees, repair footbridges, and restore essential pathways. Infrastructure damage was widespread. Roads and highways required major repairs. Several bridges needed structural assessment. Airports faced disruptions as runways were covered in debris. Power lines sagged under the weight of fallen branches. Water treatment plants struggled to maintain operations. Schools remained closed while classrooms dried, and safety inspections were carried out. Entire districts prepared for long-term rebuilding efforts, yet the determination of the affected communities remained strong. People waded through mud to retrieve tools. Neighbors shared food and clothing. Local volunteers helped relocate livestock and protect remaining crops. In many villages, homes became refuge points for families who lost everything. Streets served as meeting places where residents exchanged information and organized rescue efforts. The floodwaters paralyzed towns, but they could not weaken the collective will to survive. As cleanup continued, authorities repeated safety warnings. Water levels could rise again without warning. Hillsides remained unstable. Residents were urged not to return to damaged houses until officials confirmed that conditions were safe. Emergency teams expanded their search zones, checking isolated villages and riverbanks for survivors and missing individuals. Supplies were stockpiled in preparation for further rainfall. Central Vietnam faced cascading disasters, yet the response was marked by cooperation and resilience. Soldiers carried children through chest-deep water. Volunteers guided boats toward rooftops where entire families waited. Locals used ropes, makeshift rafts, and wooden planks to reach stranded neighbors. Each act of assistance helped protect lives and stabilize communities under immense pressure. The region remained under threat, but hope persisted. The floodwaters had taken homes, crops, and vital infrastructure, but they could not erase the resolve of the people living there. Step by step, village by village, communities rebuilt pathways, cleared debris, and repaired shelters. Through mud, water, and landslides, residents worked together to restore what had been damaged. Central Vietnam continued to face danger, but its spirit endured. In the face of one of the most severe disasters in recent history, the people of the region demonstrated strength that water could not wash away. Their effort continued steady and unwavering as they prepared for the challenges still ahead.